Hello, everyone. A little bit of a technical issue right now. The buttons weren't doing what I told them to do. Anyway, hello, everyone. Hello, Kai.
The music was missing in the last seconds. So, hi, Adrian. Hi, everybody, and good afternoon on this sunny Friday afternoon. At least here in Germany, in south of Germany. Today Adrian and I will talk about, we call it a strategy game. The basic idea behind was to talk about one of the worst, or in my opinion, one of the worst behaviors a leader can show, and that's micromanagement. So a lot of leaders who micromanage say, I'm a thorough kind of a guy, and this is my responsibility to check everything. But in our opinion, it's no matter of thoroughness, it's a matter of a lack of trust. And this topic we want to discuss today a little bit shorter live stream than usual. Since of some time issues we have, but nevertheless, keep it short, and we will come to the point, so stay tuned.
Exactly. And there is a reason why we call it, or try to call it, it's not a strategy game, because I'm one of these persons doing a lot of this stuff, or I used to do it. And one of the aspects of gaming of strategy games was that you were learning, like the entire generation who played games, and there's a lot of people, especially in the tech area, learned that you are in charge, you are a leader somehow, and you can click around people, and the more efficiently you tell everyone exactly what to do, and revert decisions, make changes very fast, very competitive, you become a very good strategist and leader, right? So you lead your people, your pawns you have down there, which is actually nonsense. So for the game, it is not. The game does work like this, but reality doesn't. So if you would try to do that in reality, it would actually hurt the people more, it would hurt yourself more, it would hurt the process more. And it is exactly what people do. So micromanagement is essentially that metaphor. So it's the master of puppets, the pulling the strings theory or metaphor, where someone is basically there, and without that person, you don't do any stuff. So no one is doing anything, right? And that is my personal definition of micromanagement. And it is existing, even though it becomes better these days, because I think social media and the modern zeitgeist actually changes that into a better direction as it was, like the last 20 years. But how is it with you? Do you think it is right now a big issue, or it's how often do you see this actually, that leaders do that in companies?
I see it, unfortunately, pretty often. And also I think everybody knows that in Germany and the industrial area or industrial sector, the economy is kind of a challenge at the moment. And in times like that, a lot of also C-levels are coming back or falling back to micromanagement, because they think everything what they have under control will be better. And I know a few years ago, maybe some of the audience know it already. I was in the automotive development area at an engineering service supplier, and there is one little story that keeps it, but brings it to the point. So we had some company presence with some small packs of gummy bears. And it was not the gummy bear; it was a vehicle. Then we distributed or gave that to the customers. And one day, when there was a crisis at a German OEM, a car manufacturer, there was a department leader who counted all these packs, and he also had a list to control who of his employees or team members are taking how many. And so if there's a crisis and you read anything about cost efficiency programs, and then you can bet on it that there are department leaders and also high level up to C-level members. They are writing lists, how many pencils an employee needs, and so on. And every investment, even if it's so small, like buying or let's see, attending at a conference or whatever, has to be approved by the highest C-level or board member. And it's okay to save money or to be aware of where the money goes, but I think there are limits that you can take it for serious or not. And also for the employees. So if you have to go to your leader to ask if you can take one of the gummy bears a supplier provided, or you need why do you need again a new pencil? You received one 4 weeks ago. So
that form of micromanagement is already something. It is not even important to do that. So I think what goes hand in hand very often, it is not a coincidence. It is something, when you start to do micromanagement, then you start to focus on the wrong things anyway. So you see suddenly that, oh, if I do that instead of that person, that is already the signal I'm thinking of, I'm doing something better right now. So you don't see anymore what is actually good for the company, what is good, what pays onto the target and goal, right? You don't do that. You instead just look at what can I fix for other people and what people cannot fix. So that is the focus. The point is, and you said control, and since I practice stoicism for myself, and during my reflections, control is a very big topic for me personally, and I see that everywhere out there. There's patterns everywhere, and you can't control other people. You can, at best, influence other people. And by that, you need to control yourself. And the point is that if you think you can control others, then your focus goes outward, which means that you don't really see what happens inward in that moment. That is a big problem because you don't see what you do as a leader. That symptom is that you speak way too much. So the ratio between speaking and listening is way too much on speaking, which is bad. You shouldn't put out everywhere statements, but instead ask the right questions and leave the others put the statements in. And that starts to make sense then. But it's not for you, because as soon as you start to try to control others, you waste your energy and you lose your focus. That is what happens. And instead, you should focus on yourself. and see how you act, how what you can invoke in others by influence, that they can take the ownership, and you can talk about what actually happens then. So that would be my take to actually solve this. And that is what I wanted to add, because a stoic topic a day keeps the burnout away, right? And that's important, right?
That's your
Just
principle. Yeah.
that's a principle, right? And that's from my perspective. But you said something different or else. Is like in Germany, I think that German CEOs or leads in general or managers in general, it's like there is a lot of expectations out there, because we see ourselves here as high performance people. Somehow we see that, even though we don't really are high performing anyway. So it's like it's more like a something we have from the past, or we believe it was like that in the past, and we try to live up to the standard, but we are always like below that standard, and we hide it away, and we are all fine with that in the company. And that is the reason why such micromanagement is actually allowed to exist, because it is not only the CEO of a 500-person company, it is basically every leader in between who does exactly that, because they simply don't know how to do leadership. Leadership is not a taught topic. You don't learn that in school. You don't learn that in ethics. You don't, and it should be taught in ethics in school. Ethics should be a main field of study in all education, not in a religious way, but in a way in between the social aspects, the civic aspects in between people. So how do I behave? When do I say something? When should I listen? How is listening and these kinds of things on a psychological level actually working? And I think that is absolutely missing. So leaders get into the position, or managers, and are supposed to lead, in quotes, people. And the only thing they see is, I can do it very well. I see everyone else is not doing very well. Now I tell everyone how to do that by telling every little step, instead of thinking, okay, there is a gap. How to bridge that gap? How to make sure that in 3 months from now, the people can do it. And I'm one of the persons, because I can do it right now. They might be not so good at it. What can I do to improve the others so that they all can do it and I can focus on different things? And actually, what is the next step on overarching improvement of the entire department, circle, team, or whatever I have there? What is your, so when I can ask the question is, what is your way of, when you get in, or what, let's say, how to phrase it, like there is this management person, and this person is asking for help. That is often the case. Maybe getting to you, want to have a coach. Is it like that the people tell you that the others are, or the leaders who looking for help are actually telling you that, look, the other people are doing that and that wrong. Help me, I want to improve them. It's a little bit like they don't see the issues on their side. Do you have the same experience? Because I have that very often, that I'm getting called because of employees, but the problem is the person who called me.
Yeah. Yeah, so if somebody says I have to change something on my behavior or my personality, then you already have a big part of the improvement done, because he is self-reflected and says, okay, I'm responsible for that. I think the issue begins one step before, and with the choice of the leaders. So often leaders are chosen by their technical experience or by how long they are stayed in the company, but rather in according to their personality, to their character, if they are suiting to a leadership role, if they love people, if they want to engage with people, and so on, and also if they want to serve their team and not only the team to serve them. And so these are major topics. And if one of the best technical guys is engaged into a leadership role, and he sees in that he is not doesn't know how to deal with it, and he asks his leaders. He often gets the stereotype as an answer. Yeah, you know, you are a leader. You have to know it by yourself, and this doesn't help. So um, even the most talented leader person needs some qualification, needs some sparring, or needs a teacher before, and yeah, let's say needs some company. Who can tell him something from outside, and because the own view is very limited, and
Biased as well.
yeah, and to improve that, you need somebody from outside who can say which screws you have to turn or which buttons you have to press.
I see the same thing. Is I see very talented leaders, actual leaders, so not managers, but leaders who really try, who called out that I help. And that is often something that tells me, okay, there is something going on. There are ideas, but people cannot translate the ideas into reality. So they have the ideas, they sit in a large meeting, and those ideas are not really translated to each person. And as soon as they become more like telling, like, I have a new idea, we try this, and then you see this doubt thing or some other things, and it's typical, very typical for software engineering, because there's so many opinions how things should be done, and there are no standards. Software engineering is basically standard free. There are no standards at all. And in my case, it's when I see this, it's clear that the translation must happen. There must be a transmission from there to this side, and biases and fallacies maybe as well, but mainly biases between people are the other thing. So there are people above who push you to change something with them, and then you sit in front of the people and they simply say no, and you say, maybe I need to have something different. You try to stay or try to keep the social relationship stable, and you cannot really transmit your idea, because that would cause change would cause the change in the relationship, and that change in the relationship terrifies the leaders. That is what I see as well. One way is, of course, to have the confidence. Oh yeah, so let's build confidence, not in an absolute term, but confidence in the way that I know whatever that happens when I do this, I'm comfortable with what happens afterwards. If it's okay, if it's a success, fine. If it's not a success, fine as well. But that includes I am fine with a change.
Mhm.
So that implies you can only be comfortable with that if you have already done that at least once. So you are not dedicated to the team, the departments, or whatever you want to call it. You are not bound to those those entities anymore, in a way that you are terrified to make a change. And it is easier, of course, to get from outside, but people from outside have a different um, problem, that they have the feeling that they are not connected enough. And I think this is the reason where I always try to push leaders into maturity. And I think this is a maturity issue. That's the reason why so less leaders in the age of 20 exist who actually can make a change in an existing grown team. And the reason for that is you need to have enough experience, and you need to have enough experiences made in a negative and a positive form, which were threatening to you, and you were overcoming those, that you see that those results don't scare you anymore. And that is a prerequisite to actually get from the micromanager, who, instead of doing that relationship stuff, just push the relations to the side and just do the stuff for the other people. Right. And that is a little bit like, that's avoidance of actually changing the entire culture. That is what I see so often. This is not a complicated form, but that is the actual pattern of it in my space. Do you see something similar in the automotive industry, or is it different there?
No, I think it's similar. I think it's not a topic which is related to a business or to a business field or company size or whatever. It's a human specification that humans react like that you described. And so I think you can find it everywhere. I think what's differing is that in several industries you have different ways to control people. So you have another kind of control level. If you're working on a production, then you can count how many parts are assembled or whatever. If you're working in an office, you can count it with hard KPIs, how much work is delivered at the end of the day. If you're doing something more creative, like software development or also engineering, it's not that you can predict every step how long it takes, and so I think there will be other methods then. And the bad news is that a micromanaging leader will always find some methods to do the micromanagement.
You manage to stay in management of micromanagement style. So it's a little bit like then it comes close to a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you say it's the best way to do it, then you just do it because you can, and then it's the reality. So it's a little bit like, should we do that? I don't think so. I think the implications of if we do like talking about the consequences are that a team, first of all, doesn't want to take ownership at all. You remove creativity nearly entirely because there is neither a focused or a defocused state in the people that they could say, I focus on that and this is where I'm being creative, or I'm defocused, this is how I get creative. They simply don't do anything because they stop thinking about what they do. You reduce it to a mere level of execution, and you see that especially apparent in where power distance index is very high. So in companies where the actual management is further away from the ICs who are actually working on things for the individual contributors. And I see that in the AI space as well. When we try to replace people with AI, that is especially in companies the wish by management, where you have exactly that implemented. So you reduce the people in a way that they are very exchangeable, very substitutable, only doing the very necessary stuff. You have some, in quotes, smart people in the company who plan everything. So basically, plan everything for everyone, and all the people shall just execute. And you remove the entire ownership of reviewing personal work because you don't need to, because there is an acceptance criteria. If that is met, just go for it. And you don't have an actual reason to make it right because no one is asking you to make it right. They're only asking you to fulfill that criteria because you don't think, just make this criteria thing. If something goes wrong, they ask you, why haven't you thought about this? And the answer would be, yeah, because you told me I shouldn't think about that. And then they say, I was never told that. No, you basically told that in subcontext. And that is what micromanagers don't really understand, that they have a huge influence on people because they are the boss. So they are, by contract, people are afraid of losing their jobs because they need to feed their families, right? That's normal. We all have that. So we all need to make the money. If someone takes away all our money, we have a huge problem. So we know that by nature that we need to do that. So in order to not use that fear against the people, right? You need to remove that fear from them. So they need to think about, how can I make sure my living here, or how I make my living here in that company, is actually something where I can improve it. This is the bottom-up approach in ownership. So if I do that, I can make a better company out of that. And if I am away, what's going? Oh, battery exhaust.
Your sound is back, but no video.
I was so fine in the flow. What's going on here?
Mhm.
The battery is dead, but actually there is power connected. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, technical issues.
I am El Gato. Hello, everyone. I'm back. Somehow I needed to replug the power cable. I don't know what that was. Somehow the battery of my camera was on. I didn't see that. And now it's on power again. That's streaming. That's
Now
part
we
of
can
life.
see you again.
I need to micromanage my camera better. I
Yeah,
shouldn't leave it to the camera.
yeah. But what you were describing, that's then also this strategy game that leaders are taking it as a strategic tool to control the people or to fulfill their leadership role.
Yeah, that's only the strategy. So, and I think this one of the theories is that management is not really like saying that I give you that team, right? Or we give you that team, take care of that team. You have the power to do that. It's like you already get, as a management person in a middle management, so many obligations and restrictions that it is nearly impossible to really give that away, because you have so many consequences when things don't work. And when you then have already a bad relationship and you don't really know how to leverage this, you go the safe route, because if someone, you tell someone to do something and that person doesn't do it, and the outcome is bad, you can always point out that this person is working not very well. You can see that in the reports, in the performance meetings. You can always point that out. It is some form of safety mechanism for you as a manager, which is very bad. Should be like you get power, and whatever happens in your team, there are some basic rules, but everything else is up to your charge. And if you do it right, then it's fine. But if something goes wrong, it is you, not a person. We are not interested that you blame any one of your people to the higher management. That is the
Yeah,
worst. In my opinion, that is the worst. But it is worse, it is bad as well that the manager actually doesn't have the power in between to actually do that. So they need to do this nonsensy PDI stuff, or power distance index, whatever
mhm.
that is called, right? Flowing down, the blame game downwards and upwards. I really don't like it, right? And so every leader who sees that I can't provide that for my sub leads, I need to go one step above and fight for it. And those up there need to fight for it until you reach the C-suite, and where the actual cultural requirements and possibilities are defined. You need budget for this, time for this, understanding for this, and you need the expertise for this. So you need to provide this for your company. You can't expect from one middle management person that this person changes the entire company. That doesn't work. I know, never said that happened.
No, it's a cultural topic, and cultural has to be shaped by everybody, but beginning with the top. So you can't do it or build a company culture bottom up.
Okay. Sorry, I was getting another message. Yeah, so we have 10 more, or some more minutes actually. I think that is a very interesting topic. And I think more people should think about that, especially on the higher ranks, but on lower ranks as well. But if you see that as a person, you should name it. I think understanding is the first step to actually make a change. Um, Especially in the German industry, I think people should more come to people like you and ask for help. And I wouldn't, it's a first step as a mentoring, for example. If a leader asks for private mentoring, how can I fix these kind of things? That's, but I appreciate more is if more leaders in companies actually say, you know what, to the co-leaders and to the reports or something like that. Um, let's provide some budget to talk about this. Budget in form of time and external budget, which means that you need to have the time where you don't work and where you put time and energy into how to actually get away from the current state we are into a better one. Until you can do that on a daily basis with a disciplined baseline. But for the companies I know, there is no way to have a disciplined baseline every day. So they need to get there first because they are so entrenched that there is no common baseline. Everyone just have an individual baseline and no one knows about that. That I often have meetings where you sit down with entire teams and one person is or two persons are talking about an issue of the team which seems to be so severe, and that's nearly every time the case, that all the other people say, no, it's actually good for me. I don't know what your problem is. It's a little bit, how can that be? We're talking about maybe 20 people, 25 people, sometimes even 10 or something like that. So people should know about general major issues of others, but there's so much isolation in between, and that is coming again from the idea of micromanagement over years. There is someone who dictates how to do it. It must not be a person. It can be a system like Scrum as well, where you get tickets and those tickets dictate how you do that. It is always that external agenda which destroys ownership. What do you think about that? What's your advice thing we today?
Yeah, I think begin with yourself and take the total ownership for what you are doing, and you are never or very rare that that the team is to blame for not doing the stuff right. It's always a leadership topic, and it begins with the leader to reflect himself and or herself, and then also to start changing with yourself. So yeah, taking the ownership of everything that happens, not only what you are doing, but only what happens within your or surrounding, and then you can start building kind of a culture which works without micromanagement and without controls. And you will see and you will experience that also your team members will evolve and bloom up because they know that they can do anything or they can bring their contribution and they have your trust.
And you can learn about that on next Saturday's Leadership Hype directly from Kai. I would take that chance. We will post it in the comments, the link to the event. We will talk about these things there as well. I think it will come up anyway. It is always coming up.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to see you there, because that was a very interesting aspect you just mentioned. And we should go more for a deep dive there. And well, we have the next streams as well where we talk about that. We have next week a stream with another stream, isn't it?
Yes, on Friday together with Alexander.
We need to announce that.
Yeah.
Let's discuss it later.
And but don't miss the leadership hike in the Freiburg area in the Black Forest. Saturday, 18th of July, start at 12 o'clock. We go out for a hike, beautiful nature, beautiful topics, interesting topics, and a small group we can discuss intensely together with you. And don't miss that.
Yep, I'm looking for the link to find information. There's the link. I'm pushing it into. It is complicated to push something in LinkedIn into an event. One second. There it is. Good. Yeah. Thanks a lot. I actually have to go. Sorry, I'm a little bit time constrained today. But thanks for listening. That was a good and important topic to speak about.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice afternoon.